This is something we used to do. We used to exercise our freedom of speech much more openly in the old days. And now you'll find that there's less places you can go to get this kind of honest kind of conversation. And a big part of walking the talk is learning to actually talk about what you really feel deep down. And when you start becoming honest about what you feel and starting to talk with sincerity, authenticity, and integrity, what happens? Your thoughts become aligned with authenticity, integrity, and honor. And then your actions follow, because the thoughts that you think are going to become the words that you say. And the words that you say are going to become the actions that you hold. So if your words are inauthentic and they're not coming from a place of heart and sincerity and genuine what you think and feel, your behavior will not match your words. And I think this is a serious problem because people are so used to acting with text, right? So when you text, it's very easy to be anyone you want to be on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever. You can create this facade of who you are. You can be whatever you want. You can have any kind of image of that represents you. But when you actually start using your own voice and you actually start communicating, then your insecurities, your security, your state of mind, it all comes out through your voice and people can really see who you are. And I think this is really the key to real shadow work. What do you think about that, Indy? Does shadow work start with speaking the way like therapy and psychologists say that you got to really talk about what you're feeling?
Yeah, I think it really does, whether that's actually like talking aloud or just writing stuff down or speaking to yourself. It starts with the communication that's opening a new bridge to the shadow. Because it's a thing that really people, your ego in the stages of alchemy of transformation, they say it's the inner dragon or the ego that we refer to today that you have to battle. And so in a lot of ways, when people come into shadow work, if you're not ready for it, a lot of people will pull back and prefer to stay in denial. It's a very difficult situation that you're going to going through the dark night of the soul for a time once you start to process the shadow before you start to end up in self-realization and begin to have self-mastery and arise with inner joy and balance within. Having awakened your full capacity and become whole again. Your shadow is an aspect of yourself that's authentic and splintered away, that's been suppressed, that can be then rejoined with your self that you know, and then become a greater self. So it's a beautiful process. And with talking to somebody first, to be able to tell you about it or reading about it from some words that someone has written, that's only the way that you're going to be able to discover this process in the first place. And then through processing, usually you can have somebody ask you these 3 questions, or you can ask yourself these 3 questions. What upsets you? Why does that upset you? And when did that start? And if you can understand what gears are working and trace it back to its roots, you can really be able to change your whole outlook to life, and your entire world will flip upside down, because the things you used to be the cause of your problems, which were external, then become something entirely different. And the problems are no longer a problem. They're more of a challenge that leads to opportunities and rewards. So it's a very interesting transformation. And it all starts with communication.
Yeah, exactly. And I you know, and I love how you expand upon that. It's beautifully said, brother. Five gold star points, you know. I do think that it's so fundamental that we start. People talk about confidence, right? So I used to be told that I'm really confident. People used to say, "Wow, you're so confident." I used to be, "No, dude. I just don't care what anybody thinks." So I confide. The key to what is confidence? Confidence is the ability to confide. When you realize that other people's opinions don't matter, it's so easy to confide, right? You're not confiding in someone because their opinion matters to you. Their opinion matters to them. But what you're confiding about with your own heart is not about getting what is it when you're looking for from the outside validation. You shouldn't be confiding in people because you want them to validate your feelings. Some people are going to attack your feelings. Some people are going to try and validate your feelings. When you don't care about the other people's responses to you expressing your feelings, they cannot validate you and they cannot validate you. So then it's more about the process of me just sharing with you, and that's it. And then hopefully you'll be able to share with me your feelings. And then it becomes like a trading of like, I'm sharing my feelings with you, you're sharing your feelings with me. And it's no longer about So I think the young people have been taught to validate. So they share their feelings up to a point when they think they will get validation. If I'm in the right crowd with the right group of people, I'll say what I think because I know that it's going to be mirrored back at me and we're all going to be on the same frequency and we're all going to be saying, yay, swinging the same. But this creates a sense of dissidence in terms of ethics and authenticity and integrity, from my opinion and my perspective, because people aren't sharing for the sake of sharing. One should share even if one thinks that one won't be well received.
Yeah.
There we go. I came back. I think this is a big problem, validation. And I think this validation drives us around in a circle that puts us stuck in this attachment. Because how many of us, if we're honest with ourselves, are attached to validation in this world? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think we all are to a degree, and it deepens when we're in different situations. When it's more serious of a situation, more consequences or something, there are more opportunities involved. We really have to tighten up. What do you think, Cosmic?
I think one of the things it's also important to realize is that it's not just that their opinions don't matter, but recognize that you're probably not going to change another person's opinion on a subject. I think there's because I think so many people, they get frustrated with the conversation because they're expecting to win that other person over to their side. So I just pretty much am at a point where I'm just like, it's better to learn than to convince, I guess, because I think, one of the things that when you're talking about like young people, and there's an interesting like interview between this one YouTube commenter who's this teenage girl who used to be woke, but then basically changed her mind. And one of the things she said, she wasn't interested. She was interested in changing the world as opposed to understanding the world. See, I think it's like people are more interested in changing and controlling than actually trying to understand what it is that they think they need to control. And the other dynamic that I think it's kind of this push and pull dynamic is that the more people feel helpless, the more incentivized they feel to control and to dominate. Because I think when it comes to like, woke, and whether it be left wing or right wing, I think one of the common themes is controlling people's thoughts, controlling people's actions, and controlling people's sort of way of being because they're insecure about their own sort of self, their own outlook on life, and their own standing, or perhaps they feel helpless. So they try to overcompensate by trying to be very controlling, very dominating. No, you're going to think the way I think, and my way is what. Like that's one thing that's always like puzzled me growing up with my whole life is how people can have so much certainty. I mean, it's one thing to have like certainty, but some people, they're just like, it's like, I've always been sort of like mired in sort of like uncertainty and doubt. And there's some people they go through life without any semblance of doubt, any semblance of uncertainty. And to me, it just almost seems like mathematically impossible. And I don't mean that in the sense of being like confident in yourself or knowing who you are. I'm talking people who are, it's like they have a certain set opinion and they're not going to change that opinion regardless of what you tell them or what evidence you show them. And, I think that we don't have a sense of like mystery in the world, a sense of curiosity that we don't know what's going on. A lot of these kids, because of technology, is I think it's given us a false sense of wisdom, and that we feel like we have all of this knowledge, and that it's so easy, and we think we subconsciously think we have everything figured out. And maybe the problem with society is that we can't distinguish between knowledge and wisdom anymore. It's like so many people think that if you know a lot of things, that's the same as being wise, but it really isn't. Wisdom is all about what you do with your knowledge, how you apply it, and how you turn it into something different. Just compiling knowledge and information doesn't necessarily translate into wisdom.
Yeah, I think that. Sorry, do continue, please.
I've got a lot of my wisdom from ancient Taoism, just the ability to integrate different worldviews together and know that they don't cancel each other out. Know that they're just an expansion of the world that has many faces to us all. And so we can learn from our perspective, and the perspective given to us from others, that either we want to strengthen our perspective as opposed to theirs, or we want to integrate their perspective into our own. But it takes a lot of strength of your own understandings and principles to be able to expose yourself to other people's beliefs as well. So that's something that takes time to build resilience and strength in your core beliefs.
Yeah, completely. And that's what I'm talking about, like being self-contained, being content within yourself. I'm interested in other people's opinions, but they don't matter. I'm only interested in to understand how those opinions are put together. But the moment, and this is what you're talking about, I think, Cosmic, those younger people go into certain chat rooms, and they express that opinion, and they notice other people validate that opinion. So my opinion must be right. Then they get that opinion validated by other people, and my opinion must be more right. And by the time they've had that opinion validated and validated and validated, they go, well, that must be the fact. Everybody agrees with me. I must be right. Then suddenly they come across somebody that doesn't agree with them. They can't handle it. How dare you not validate my opinion? Everybody else does. And I think when we realize that other people's opinions don't matter, we realize that our opinions don't matter either. I think that's where I see, when we recognize that opinions are just our ideas that we're concocting, and that when we recognize and realize that our opinions change as we get older, it's quite a hit trip when you look at it and you go, wow, how have my opinions changed about things as I've grown older? My perception of things have changed. My awareness has changed. The way that I feel about things have changed. Yeah.
Yeah, but there is an exception to that not many people know of, called Pyrrhonian skepticism, where you can actually change somebody else's opinions, but you have to join their opinion first and put yours aside for them to let the walls down. And then you subversively talk them out of their opinion and talk them into yours from having their opinion from the outset. And then pointing out together the weak points in it by showing first the strong points. So it's kind of a subversive thing. That school of thought has been used by the Senate of Greece and has developed into a system of law. And the lawyers use that technique.
It seems like it could be used in a kind of a sinister connotation, though. Like it's kind of like because in the way, if you think about cults and the way they brainwash people, there's multiple strategies that you can actually do. One strategy is you get people afraid. You say, you got to join my belief system, and because your belief system is false, you're going to hell, so you got to join my belief system. The other way they do is they basically say, oh, everything, they have a cult. Oh, everything you believe is what we believe too, but you're wrong in these certain